National Fire Radio.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the National Fire Radio podcast. I am Jeremy, the host of the National Fire Radio channel. Thank you for joining us. If this is your first time listening to the podcast channel, welcome. If you've been here before, we appreciate your continued support and listening, and trust me, we do appreciate you being a part of the National Fire Radio community. This week, April 3rd, 2023 is an exciting time for us. April this year is a big month for us, and we're going to get into a few of those things as the weeks tick on this month. But right now, this week, on April 4th, Tuesday, and going forward on every Tuesday, will be a brand new podcast called The Size Up by National Fire Radio. The Size Up is hosted by our friend Robert Papero. We call him Pip. You know him. He's the little guy with the mohawk. He's a rock star. He's a dear friend of ours, and he's bringing forth something new. So how about this? Give a listen to what The Size Up is all about.
The Size Up by National Fire Radio is a lifestyle podcast hosted by Robert Pip Papero. Pip has been involved in the emergency services for close to 30 years, and over that time, he's learned how much your lifestyle off the job can correlate directly to your ability to do the job. Episodes of The Size Up by National Fire Radio will focus on just that. Those different factors that you can control so you're prepared when the time comes that you aren't in control. Pip's guests will come from a variety of fields and have an expertise on topics not normally dove into on the National Fire Radio platform. So sit back, relax, throw in your earbuds, and ask yourself, what's my personal size up?
I love it, Lily. Thank you for that. What a great intro into what The Size Up is all about. Launching April 4th, Pip throws it out there with his first guest on The Size Up, and that is me. I am his first guest. It's going to be a killer discussion. We've already recorded it, and I know for a fact it's going to bring tremendous value. So I'm looking forward to The Size Up. That's going to be once a week, every Tuesday. The Size Up will be on the National Fire Radio channel. Check him out over on social media as well, The Size Up, as well as thanks for tuning in. And the only way we can do this, the only way we can push this job forward together is if we get the partners involved. And the partners are our sponsors. So do me a favor, sit back and give a listen to some of the sponsors who allow us to do what we do. Our first sponsor of the podcast, Taylor's Tins. Taylor and his crew from Taylor's Tins have been manufacturing metal helmet fronts since 2017. With over 200,000 metal fronts in the market, they are a leader in the metal helmet front space. Their creativity as well as customer service sets them apart from the competition. They are manufacturing one-offs within 24 to 48 hours to ship to your door. Not only that, but head over to taylorstins.com and you'll see all the other products that they offer. Right now on their homepage, they have a whole page dedicated to vintage metal prints. It's so cool to see the original prints of the fire apparatus, fire hydrants, fire helmets, fire boots, flashlights. It's so cool. They are printed metal tins that hang on the wall that are aged and look to be from the original days of when these prints were drawn, looking for copyright and trademarks. It's really cool. Taylor and his crew are super creative. They're always pushing the envelope as to what products they offer to the fire service. Check them out at www.taylorstins.com. That's again, taylorstins.com to get a hold of Taylor and his crew. And in the words of Taylor, stop burning up leather. This episode's brought to you by the 2448 podcast. If you're a first responder with an entrepreneurial streak, check out the 2448 podcast. Hosted by Sam Massa, who built lighting company High-Vis LEDs. During his off time, he serves as a volunteer firefighter and professional EMT. Each week, we tell the stories of different first responder-owned businesses, from small startups to food trucks to companies like National Fire Radio and Fire Department Coffee. Available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Go to the2448.com for more information. That's www.the2448.com for more information about this killer podcast. And if you're coming to FDIC this year, join us in booth 13073, right by the entrance in the main hallway where National Fire Radio, yes, us, in conjunction with the 2448 podcast, will be teamed up for live shows throughout the duration of FDIC. It's going to be a killer week out in Indy. Join us at booth 13073 right in the main hallway where you come right into the convention center. We're going to be right there live broadcasting throughout the week. Come see us. Guys, thanks for checking it out. Check out the 2448 podcast. And now, without further ado, the daily episode. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the National Fire Radio podcast. Today's going to be a fun episode. This guy today, I think, Aaron, you might hold the record for being on the podcast the most. I think, in 5 years. I think who I have today, because he didn't chime in yet, Aaron Heller. We're going to get into his bio in 1 second. Aaron, thanks for joining me today, brother.
Oh, man, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, right? So how many times? 3, 4 times now, probably?
I think this is 3, and, an interview at FDIC last year was awesome. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I'm a big fan of homegrown guys. You're a New Jersey guy. I am a New Jersey guy. And that matters to me. But it also, there's like a long relationship that we've had, but we didn't have, right? So, like, we've known of each other for a very long time. We've had a lot of mutual friends along the way, but only really got to know you in the last, say, 5 years or so, maybe 5, 6 years now. And for that, I'm grateful. And, I know you've been in the fire service for a few years, and you got a lot of connections, and you know a lot of people, and you've traveled all over the world doing what you do, and so on. But it's fun to, develop my own relationships with guys, too. It's fun to know guys through people, but then when you get to, meet them for yourself and then get to develop a relationship and friendship and a brotherhood with an individual, it's a lot of fun because it reinforces what everybody's always told you and what the relationship always looked like from the outside. So it's a lot of fun, man. I'm proud to call you a brother and a friend. We've traveled together. We've taught together. We've done the podcast several times together, and you're a New Jersey guy. So it's just all the right for the making here. So, brother, thank you for joining me today, man.
It's great to be back on with you. And like you said, man, it's been years of contact back and forth. And then, for these last 5 or 6 years, just really getting to know each other has been very, very cool. Really, really. And again, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's fun. I mean, listen, this podcast is all about talking to guys and sharing and pushing the job forward. And I think that yourself, when you were on the job and now that you're retired, we'll get into that a little bit, but also with your company, On Scene Training Associates, you guys you have a cadre of incredible instructors that I've gotten to know. I've gotten to know the team pretty well. I've traveled with you guys on a few conferences now. I've worked with a lot of you and so on. I call a lot of your team, friends of mine. And so for that, I'm grateful. Let's go through a couple things real quick. 39 years in the fire service, 32 years and 8 months with the Hamilton Township, New Jersey Fire Department, retired as a deputy chief. Congratulations on retirement. That wasn't too long ago.
No, December 1st it was.
And how is that treating you?
It's great. I highly recommend it for everybody. I really do.
I'm trying, man. I got a few more years to go here.
Yeah, you do. And the thing I'm seeing in retirement is I was terrified of it. Honestly, I was terrified of it when I started talking about it last summer, and literally my wife said to me, you better go see a therapist now. Like, you better start because you and the fire department are synonymous. Yeah. And you're going to basically, she told me, you're going to be a freaking train wreck. But
you're not.
I'm not. I was terrified of it. And to the point where when I put my papers in, I actually booked a cruise for 2 days after I was to retire, after my retirement date, because I knew I was going to be out of vacation time and I knew I couldn't back out on pulling my papers.
I love that.
I did it. I painted myself in the corner on purpose because I wasn't sure that I could do it. And I haven't looked back. I'm really enjoying retirement. The job changed a lot. I'm proud of where we took them. I'm proud of a lot of the guys there. There's things that I wish I had the power to change, but I didn't. And it was my time. They all tell you one day you're going to wake up and you're going to know it's time to go. And I never believed that. I thought it was all bullshit. And it's true. It's absolutely true. I woke up one day down the shore. We were at LBI, place you and I both hang out a lot.
One of my favorite places.
Yeah. And we were walking up to the beach, and I'm thinking to myself, I was starting to worry about what I had to do at work. and I still had like 5 or 6 days of vacation left.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, why am I worrying about this? I'm in the most beautiful place. I've got all this going for me. Why am I freaking out over work right now? And
was that
and
new for you? Had you ever experienced that before?
I always worried about work.
Okay.
Like if I was away on vacation, I remember going away on vacation when my kids were little, and like I wouldn't, I never admitted it to anybody at the time, but I was like kind of counting down to when I could get back on a rig.
Yeah.
Like I was missing it so bad, kind of jonesing for it so bad. And that last year in Hamilton, we went through a lot of ups and downs, man. We went through consolidation.
Yes.
2020 consolidated 9 fire districts into 1 municipal fire department. So I wouldn't call myself an expert by any means, but I certainly know now a lot of the pitfalls and a lot of the good things. And it was a brutal, last year was really tough. It was tough on us.
Well, you're looking at a combination program, and you're taking you said 9 different departments and making a township wide municipal department. There's no way in hell that's going to be an easy process.
No. And I mean, 4 of us had to be demoted because we were the fire chief for districts, for fire districts.
Right.
So 4 of us motions to deputy chief. You can only have 1 fire chief, and he's just an absolutely fabulous guy who had his hands full and had his hands somewhat tied at the municipal level. Things we could do at the district level, it was easy, and things we tried to do at the municipal level, the bureaucracy was so tough to navigate for all of us. And part of it was us not understanding what we were getting into.
Sure.
A lot of it was the township doesn't understand us. I don't think they still understand them. So it's tough, man. It was really tough. But again, these guys are going to fires. They're busier than ever. They're doing a very good job, I think. I mean, they have their problems like everybody, but there's a lot of good dudes who are working really hard, and I'm proud that I was part of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's it, right? But, the stress of the job towards the end, I mean, it's really interesting. I had a conversation the other day with Chief Brian Nardelli out of Brockton, Massachusetts. And
I met him with you that last time.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Oh, my God. I couldn't get enough of him when we were in Maine. I forgot. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You were there. I couldn't. Yes. And I was like, this guy's a home run. I mean, he just fires everyone up. And his message the other day on a podcast was very much, he's like, I know I'm not ready to go yet. And when I am ready to go, it's my job to go, because the day that I'm there for myself and blah, 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 he goes, then I'm not paying it forward. And I think there's a lot to that. And for you to say, that you realized you realized it was time, and you did. It is credit to you and who you are, right? I mean, you're looking at a new fire department, if you will, and it was time for you to say, okay, I did my part. It's time to go.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the preparation to become the new department.
Yes.
I enjoyed getting to know other firemen from my own town who I knew the names, but I didn't truly know them.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because they didn't really work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the new department, they did. And so I really enjoyed that. I met some guys, got to really know some guys who I did know guys are bad guys. And I have a very, very very strong newfound respect for some of those guys.
Yeah.
And I got to work with some guys who I thought were really good, and I realized they weren't exactly who I thought they were.
Yeah.
That for me, life needs to be I want to be impactful on things. If I'm not making an impact, there's something wrong. Either I need to change what I'm doing, or I need to adjust. Sometimes you got to adjust the sails if you're not impactful. And I just felt that in Hamilton, I had done my duties, and I just couldn't make the impact I felt I could make in other ways.
Yeah.
Like I say, it was just time. And that last year I was going to work. I wasn't going to my firehouse, if that makes sense.
No, it makes plenty of sense. And I think that's got to be, I would think then the drive in every morning that was on your mind.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. It wasn't the excitement of, we're going to do this or that. It was shit, I got to go to work. I got to deal with this personnel thing or this scheduling thing. And I just, just didn't excite me. And,
Yeah.
And it was time.
Yeah, well, and kudos to you for recognizing that, right? Too many managers, bosses, administrators, chiefs, they hang on way too long, and what that does is the sourness or their lack of drive starts to bring down the culture even further. And so, we need leaders that are dialed in, ready to go. Not that you weren't, but the excitement wasn't there anymore for you. It changed, and for you to recognize that, and to realize too that, hey, you got other opportunities, brother. You can effectively reach people in other ways, and it doesn't mean that you have to be wearing your bugles in the front seat of the car anymore.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And yeah, I still felt, and I still feel like I'm on my game as a chief. I know what I'm doing.
Sure.
I obviously I make mistakes like everyone, but I can still do that job, no problem. But this is cool, man. And I can do things with on scene that I just didn't have the opportunity to do prior. And of all things, I went back to volunteering in my local town where I had been a volunteer chief back in the 90s.
No shit. That's cool.
Riding backwards, man, and I prefer to ride backwards. It's cool.
So let me ask you this: riding backwards, and then you got that young kid sitting across from you, man. I mean, you can affect such a positive impact on a young kid's career, even anybody's career, right? With the experience you have and the knowledge you have, your pedigree behind you. I mean, to jump in the seat or to stretch a line with you would be a lot of fun, I would think, and I think you could bring a lot to the table for those kids sitting across from you.
I hope so, man. I really hope so. I'm stoked to do it. I got the first call I got in the rig. I get in the back of the ladder going to a fire alarm at the high school one night, and the kid in the jump seat next to me, when he graduated high school with my son.
I love it.
I kind of looked over at him and said, "Hey, Brett, what's my assignment, bro?"
That's fantastic. He's like,
and he's a 3-year-old kid. So yeah.
Hi, Mr. Heller. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, good for you, man. I mean, it's nice to still have it. It's nice to have the ability to still do that when you want to on the volunteer level. But it should be said too. I mean, you're neck deep. I was going to say knee deep. You're neck deep in the fire service still. I mean, as the owner and operator of on scene training, it's a training company. You are, I think, one of the OG training companies, been around for a long time. There were 3 or 4 of you guys that have been doing this for a very long time. You all have very good mutual respect for one another. And On Scene was a training company that's been around for quite a long time. How many years have you been doing On Scene now?
The business incorporated in 2004, but before the incorporation, I was doing it for a few years before, probably 4 years before we incorporated. So
sure.
we're coming up on, I think we're in our 20 officially, 19, 20, something like that. But I think us and traditions and PL and, maybe Brothers in Battle of that I can think of off the top of my head. We've been doing this a long time. We've seen a lot of guys come and go, and
sure,
it's been great.
Yeah, and so for you though, that's keeping you active too. And so whether you're in the firehouse, you're not in the firehouse anymore, except for the volunteers. But for you now, owning and operating a training company that you have guys and girls within your organization that are located all over the country. You guys travel outside of the country as well as across the country. You guys do different conferences. You do your own conferences. You do your own lectures and so on. Give me a little background about how On Scene came to be. Where did it come from?
So it was crazy. I was doing drills in our local area simply because I saw the need, and I wasn't even charging anybody, man. My ex-wife, she would be so pissed at me. Oh wow, you got paid in it, and that's great. Oh yeah.
I get it, man. I totally get
it. That's still the running joke to this day. That is still the running joke. We did the Lift conference in Louisiana, down in Baton Rouge, back in February, and my son is on the job about an hour from there in Houma, Louisiana. He came up to help us out, kind of be our helper. He had it made. He was Paul Combs' helper doing search class.
Nice.
So he got to learn next to Paul Combs, add a little bit of stuff that from down the bayou stuff that he knows. And then, he was the guy who had to carry the dummy up to the second floor all day long.
I love it.
At the end of the day, he had gotten a text message from his mom about, something. And she said something about, oh, I hope you get your t-shirt. So 20 years later, I'm glad she's not bitter still. So Jared, I gave Jared a Lyft t-shirt and we took a picture together and sent it to her.
That's fantastic. I love that, man. I absolutely love that. But I mean, that kind of speaks to something though, right? Like, everybody says if you get you're not going to have a training company if you want to get rich, right?
No.
Right.
No, the guys who are making big bank on a training company are definitely doing it differently than I am. I can tell you that. And, you're going to make a little money if you do it right.
Of course. It's a business.
Absolutely. But hit the lottery. You're definitely not going to hit the lottery. You can make more money on a part-time job because of the steadiness of it, I think, than you'll ever make in this, unless you're something different. But it's never been about the money. It never will be about the money.
I don't think it could never be, right? Because then that makes the priority skewed. I mean, that's not what the priority of that is all about.
Right. No. And listen, I tell our instructors, I mean, I got great guys from, big cities to small towns. And listen, if you thought you were going to make up your overtime rate teaching a class on a weekend in the middle of somewhere, it ain't going to happen. Take the overtime gig. I understand you got to pay for your family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not about that at all. But that was the root of it. We started doing drills in the area for companies who needed some help. And I started working at Ocean County Fire Academy. They were only volunteer there. We never got paid. And then I started teaching at Mercer County Fire Academy where we were getting paid. And I saw the need, and it just started kind of expanding. And that's when actually my ex-wife is an accountant. And she said, you better form a company because when you screw up, again, lots of faith in me. She says, I don't want to lose the house when somebody sues us. So you better start a company.
Yeah.
And so we did. We formed the LLC, and that was the start of the actual on-scene training, honestly. But it was that was a CYA at the time. And now it's a much stronger business.
Well, it's grown and scaled over the years too. I mean, you're almost 20 years in now. You have a cadre that is, you have a tremendous amount of people that work on behalf of you and the company as well as promoting themselves. And it's great because you have such a wide array of instructors too, the people that I've gotten to know. And you have guys with a lot of seniority like yourself, as well as some younger guys that you can hit the different targets within the fire service.
Yeah, that was important to me. Like I watched a lot of these training companies come up and down, and I'm not giving away the keys to the castle. If they can't see why we're successful, honestly, why guys, like PL are successful and these other companies that are doing good work and are successful, it's the diversity in who you bring. It's simply the diversity in who you bring and the attitude in which you bring it. And you can only fake attitude for so long. I've watched guys who, came in very humble and they acted like they were going to be that humble, educator and all that. And in the end, that's not who they were. And then they go backwards. They become who they really are. That, the stripes come out of the tiger. You start to see it.
Sure.
But the recipe that we've used and that I feel, I talk to Mark Gregory quite a bit, with PL and I've talked to guys from Traditions and other companies. I think we've done it the same way for the most part, and that's why we're long standing.
Well, let me ask you, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I just brought in 2 more younger guys in the last year. Actually 3. Steve Barton from Manchester, New Hampshire. I mean, he's not a kid, but he's got 20 some years on a job, but the energy of a kid for sure, and just pumps out tons of knowledge. And this guy named Travis Degelski from out in Redding, California. Great engine guy. I met him when I was teaching up there and kind of kept my eye on him, and Eric Hankins recommended him.
Yeah.
When a guy like Eric Hankins recommends you, that's saying a lot.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
And then one of the kids from my department, Jeff Barlow, who I've watched since he was a 16-year-old kid, he just gets it. And I said, we got to give this kid a shot before somebody else grabs him. and he's done fantastic. Just, kind of teamed him up with Pags.
Yeah.
And he's friends with Maddie, and Maddie just delivers so much unbelievably great information. And Jeff's got the right attitude. We just came back from Louisiana this week, and he was fantastic down there for his first time traveling, long distance with us. So
I love it.
Yeah,
that's important, right? It's finding that balance between young and senior and putting it together, which gives a good delivery to the student. And so I guess that's where we want to go with this, because, you and I were chatting about, hey, what are we going to talk about today? And I think the way to segue into that very easily is what we just set up. And the fact that, in today's times, we need people that have some experience to be able to teach. And theory's good, experience better, I think. And you and I were kind of talking about that a little bit, and I'd love to go down that road with you a little. You've been doing this for quite a long time now. You have experience under your belt. You bring in people in your training company that share a lot of the same experiences you've had, or even round out, your experience with their experience, right? Different things and so on. Yeah. So you guys offer a lot of different, disciplines when it comes to training. And so why does experience matter? Like when we talk about the fire service and we talk about experience, why does that matter so much?
Well, that is a deep well to dig.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
I wanted to take a sip of my coffee, so I figured I'd drop a real heavy question on you and then let you go.
Yeah, no worries. So I think it's two things. First off, you have to understand theory. And now we have science that is proving a lot of things. I mean, you look at the NIST and UL stuff, you look at the stuff Ray McCormick and those guys have been presenting, right? They're presenting fabulous theory, but they have backed it up because they have so much experience.
Yeah.
Right. So we knew that when you broke a window, randomly broke a window at a job, it was going to affect the fire. It was going to know what flow path was, but we knew it was affecting the fire. I guarantee you that when a caveman had a fire in his cave and they pulled back, the animal pelt that was hanging at the front of it, it moved the fire. It changed the dynamic of that fire, right?
That's right.
So this has been known for thousands and thousands of years. However, we didn't have the quantifiable and qualified data to truly show us and tell us that. So now we've taken that theory and we've applied it with our street experience, and we can fully say this is why, how, and what. And I think that's fabulous. But if all you're doing is teaching theory, you've never truly done it, it's very difficult for a student or an attendee of a program to sit back and buy into you, because you know what? They may have done it more than you and seen more than you, and they can see right through your bullshit that you're telling somebody else's story. And that becomes an issue. It really does. And I'm very cautious about that with on scene. You will not see me teaching high-rise work. I'll teach standpipe because I've done standpipe, but God, we'd be remiss to not say our prayers for the fellows in Chicago yesterday, right? Talked to a couple guys from there, and high rise, wind driven fire. I can't teach that. I can't teach it. I didn't do it. I understand the principles of it. I think I'm knowledgeable in it, to the fact that I can have that conversation. If Richie Stack is talking to me about that fire, I understand what he's saying, but I haven't been in that hallway when a window failed and the door was open. I don't have the right to teach that, right, in my opinion, right? But we have people in the fire service today that are still doing that, and it's bad. It's just wrong. So with on scene, I will not have that. It'll never happen. I teach it personally on my end. I rode an engine/squad rig for most of my career, right? My truck work was going mutual aid, but it was off of a squad rig. I've done truck work in my volunteer department quite a bit, but I'm not the guy who should lead all the truck training. That's why there's a Matt Paglione. That's why there's a Dave Gallagher. That's why there's a Dan.
Right.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, 100%.
So engine, extrication, absolutely. Portable ladders, yeah, no problem. But I shouldn't be the guy teaching certain things that aren't in my lane.
Well, you can't know everything. And that's like self-awareness matters. And I think what happens though is a lot of people get caught up in the fact that they can do it. And and that's where we get into a dangerous spot where we have people teaching without the actual experience. I mean, training is great. And learning is good, and sitting through conferences is great, and hands-on training is great, and YouTube videos are great, and all those things are really, really good. But man, is it different when you got to do it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So that matters. Yeah.
There's very few guys that can teach everything well. I'll tell you, there are some. With our group, Bart Simpson is an amazing instructor. I have watched him teach 10 different topics because he's got 40 years in the fire service. He's done them.
Yeah.
And to me, that I love sitting back. Just this last weekend in Louisiana, there were a couple things he was teaching, and I'm going, I don't even know how he knows that so well. But the only way you know it is by doing it. You couldn't just bullshit your way through that,
Yep.
So I think that's for anybody that's listening, especially the younger guys. That's a life lesson right there, man. It's not just stay in your lane, but master your lane. And then you can move on to the next kind of round of stuff. It's really important.
This episode's brought to you by Fast Rescue Solutions. Fast Rescue Solutions was created with the mission to develop products and training that surpass currently accepted industry standards and that meet the operational challenges of the real world. Their vision is, always has been, and always will be to revolutionize rescue and save lives. Fulfilling both the mission and the vision, the Fastboard is a disruptive technology in rescue. Invented by 28-year Philadelphia firefighter Eric Allen, with over 20 years in the Philadelphia Fire Department Special Operations Command. He is a game changer. His crew is game-changing victim and firefighter rescue and survival. The national average time for rescuing a downed firefighter is 15 to 20 minutes using 5 or more people. The Fastboard has the ability to reduce that time to 5 minutes or less using only 2 or 3 members. That is 500 times faster than the national average. Originally designed to get down firefighters out of a basement, the Fastboard has been proven effective in nearly every rescue scenario: RIT, confined space, trench, ice and water rescue, hazmat, mass casualty, and the list goes on and on. Its simplicity and versatility make it a game changer. For a virtual demo or more information, visit their website at www.fastrescuesolutions.com and tell the crew you heard about them on the National Fire Radio channel. Eric and his crew at Fast Rescue Solutions have become dear friends of ours, and we appreciate the support. Check them out. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think part of the problem, though, is today is everybody lacks patience, and nobody understands that this is a long game, right? It's chess, not checkers. And when everybody wants to be an expert today, everybody wants to be good at it today, when in fact it takes a very long time. This is a career, whether volunteer or career fire service. This is a career, meaning it's a lifelong endeavor. And even you at 39 years in the fire service, you're still learning. You're still making and getting better. Even at things that you teach, you're still picking up little nuggets here or there from other people's influence or conversations or experiences. And so it's a career, and it's a lifelong journey to really become good at something. And I think we need to sing that louder and harder and let people know that it's okay that you don't know everything, and it's okay that you make a mistake on the fire ground, because you're still freaking learning, man. It's a learning process.
Yeah, I really believe that as well. I really do. Listen, again, like you said, I got a long time in the fire service. I still go to classes, not just because I need the cert, but because I got to learn this stuff if I'm going to keep riding and keep teaching. So, I at the Fools thing up in Maine, sat in that class for 12 hours. I think we did classroom on a Saturday, and took pages of notes, because you got to be a lifelong learner in this. You got to be a reader. You got to be a lifelong learner. It's the only way.
All right, so let me ask you, I got to break this down then real quick because I'm not a note taker, right? I take notes during the podcast because I got to go back and, plug things into the narrative and so on. So I make like talking points so I know where I want to take the conversation. So I do, the only notes I take in life are for the podcast. I sit in all these classes. I never take notes. And then I'm thinking about like all the guys that I'm friends with and names in the fire service and guys, and they're sitting there with a notebook and I go, holy shit. I'm like, do these guys actually go back and read the notes? So full candidness, do you go back and read your notes after a conference?
I do now.
I do now. Okay.
I didn't for years. I wasn't a good note taker for years.
Yeah.
I would scribble a couple notes here and there and I never went back. And honestly, I can look in my bookshelf of all these different things that I've put together, and I've probably looked back at them a couple times in the last 10 years. But now I'm more cognizant of it, and my memory's probably not as good as it once was because I'm doing so damn much. I can't remember everything. And I don't want to blame it on old because I haven't got to that point yet.
No, not yet.
But I do now. And you know what? Honestly, some of the other guys motivated me to do that. Like I've sat in classes and here's some of the legends of the game.
Yes.
I mean,
that's my point.
When Bill Gustin sits in the front row and is still taking notes with like 40 some years in the fire service down in Miami and is one of the most prolific instructors you'll meet in your career. And he's taking note after note, or, Mike Dugan is still doing it. And, I watch some of my young guys that are doing it and I'm going, son of a bitch, I probably should be doing that too. And so I've only started doing that in the last couple of years, honestly.
You bring up so many good, like that is exactly how I feel when I sit in these classes and I'm looking around going, man, people are taking notes and I'm not taking any notes. Am I doing this wrong? Like, are these guys really going back and am I just, and then you start to think like, do I not care? Like, am I not dialed in like these guys are? And then I'm like, wait a minute. No, bullshit. I'm not a reader. Like, I don't have I do audiobooks. I do podcasts. Like, that's how I learn. That's how I get my information. I can't sit and read. I'm not a big reader, right? And then I'm like, I would never go back and read notes, but I do listen. And I absorb it, right? And I might miss every little point of the conversation, but I get the gist of it, right? And that's how I learn. But yeah, man, there's this like informal peer pressure I feel every time I'm sitting there and guys are writing in their notebooks. And I'm like, shit, I would just be drawing pictures and like doodling. You know what I mean?
I think everybody has a different way they learn and absorb.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am doing a lot more of it now. Definitely a lot more of it now.
That's cool. I think there's tremendous merit to it. I think the one thing I wish I did from day one was keep a journal. I love, man, the first time I was exposed to that was years ago in Texas. And I watched these probies at a conference after they did something, like at lunchtime, they sat down in the corner and they wrote in a notebook. And I was like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, we keep journals. Like our probie class made us keep journals, and they said to keep a journal throughout our career. And so we write down things that we learn or people we meet. And I'm like, holy shit. I go, if I kept track of the last 28 years, it would be amazing. You know what I mean? The experiences, the knowledge, the fires, the calls, the tragedy, the happiness, all of it. And anyone listening to this podcast, man, if it start today, like I started at least keeping a journal on fires in the last like 3 years. So I've made like, I'll write a paragraph or two or something just, and it's on my desktop, my computer. And so I can just click on it while I'm sitting on my computer and I can just make a couple notes or whatever. But at least I'm starting to do that. But man, I can't stress that enough. Keep record of your career, man. It matters.
Yeah. I wish I had done it, man. And I told my son the same thing. I'm like, dude, after every run, just write down a little something, after a drill, whatever it is, write down a little something and journal it, because when you get older, when you get to our ages, God willing, you'll be able to go back and you'll laugh or you'll cry.
Yeah.
But you'll have memories that, the guys today are going to have greater memory than we do too, because everybody's taking pictures of everything.
That's right.
I see some of these guys with their posts, take the damn pictures. I agree with that. Buddy shots. I know guys joke about it being buffs and, whackers stuff. It's important stuff. Just don't do it in front of somebody's burned out house. Do it in front of your rig, do it, in a classier way.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
But do it, because it really does down the road, man. It's going to mean something. Like I looked back when I was retiring, and I started looking for old stuff from when I came on the job. And, back then we didn't have digital pictures. We didn't have digital cameras. We didn't have phone cameras, anything like that. So unless you got it and had it, developed, you didn't have it. And there's just not enough. So, the memories are you're going to want them. You're going to want them.
I couldn't agree with you more. And in fact, you think back to the earlier days and the guys that we've lost and the friends that we've lost along this journey. And then, we look back and we might have one photo, and meanwhile we shared hundreds and thousands of laughs and tears. And,
exactly.
and it's so important. But you're right, though. You make a very good point. Today, more than ever, guys are documenting their journey along their way. And, it's got to be done tastefully, obviously. But,
Yep.
in regards to that, though, it's a great living testament to what we're doing. And I think that's important as well, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, now that I'm older and I've got kids that are, in their 20s, I hope that someday they can look back on all the pictures of me enjoying and loving what I did.
That's right.
And I never would have thought of that when I was their age, or, even in my 30s, I probably wouldn't have thought of that. But, now, especially when I got close to retirement, you get a lot more melancholy about things.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Start looking at things.
Yeah, let me ask you this. So you brought up Jared, you brought up your son, followed in his dad's footsteps.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I think he'll be smarter than his dad, I hope. I hope. At first, I thought he'd be smarter than his dad, not be a fireman.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, I was waiting for that.
But no, I'm very proud of him. He's working hard and doing it his way.
That's great.
And not his father's way. And I haven't, it's a touchy subject in a way.
Yeah, I get it.
Because he became a fireman in spite of me, I think.
Yeah.
He had never shown interest in the job. He didn't want to hang at the firehouse. He wasn't going out on training with me. When guys were in town, he'd go to dinner with Steve Gillespie and, Champ and big name guys that I was friends with, and not because they're big name guys, but just because that's who we are. And that's the circle we ran in. So he got to know them. And, so he did get to see the brotherhood and the love for your brothers that we have. But out of the blue, he decided he was going to, college was over. He was done playing baseball, and it was time to get serious. And that's what he did. And he took some tests, and now he is down in Houma, Louisiana.
Yeah.
I saw his crew the other day. We were down that way teaching. Saw his captain and his chauffeur, and he's got a captain who's driving his ass, which is good. And who the kind of guy I think I'd want to work for.
Nice.
And he's carving his own path, and where he ends up. But I'm very proud of him, and he's done it. Like I said, Dad didn't get him anything. In fact, I feel guilty that I gave him zero training. So a guy with my background, and I gave him zero training.
Yeah, but
I didn't was going to do it. So I just didn't do it.
Yeah, but I think what you did give him, though, was the keys to how to do it. Maybe you didn't teach him how to physically force that door. Maybe he, but he tagged along at dinners and he saw the camaraderie and the friendships and the brotherhood you made and the dedication you have to the fire service and what the fire service has done for you in your life and what it has done and hasn't done, right? And he's learned from you. And I think what's really important, and you bring up a very good point, because my kids want nothing to do with the fire service, and all of a sudden my daughter, who's 15, says to me yeah, I think I might join, the volunteers as a junior. And I said, whoa. I'm like, okay. And now it's I have this whole other mindset about what's this going to look like, right? Because they know how important the fire service is to me. They know it is my life. But I have never explained to her like the details of the actual operations of firefighting or the tactics and strategies and the science and the theory and the experience and all of that. And so now it kind of changes my mindset a little bit. But I also think too that you're not an easy guy to walk in your shadow or fill your shoes, just like I won't be either for my daughter if she decides to go down that path. See, the problem is with guys like us, we kind of have a strut about us in what we do. And you run a training company. You've been a fireman for 40 years. You know, you're known nationally. You speak nationally. Like, that's a very hard place for the next generation to follow. And and so I recognize that for my daughter. So if she wants to do this, I hope that I gave her the ability to understand how good it can be. But she certainly has to find her own way, and that's going to be hard for her, I bet.
Yeah, and it is, and you don't want to blow your own horn, but we're well known, and we've done some cool things, and made some great friends and contacts.
Sure,
and we've been around, so yeah, the name can be it can be a springboard, or listen, I'm sure I have pissed off plenty of people where the name could be a hindrance.
Same,
and yeah, so the cool thing about him, one of the cool things, and something that I admire very much, is he had a major, I wouldn't say failure because he learned from it, but he went through a hard life lesson in another fire department before he landed where he's at.
Yeah.
And it didn't go well for him. And it was a combination of, I think, wrong guy, wrong place, wrong way of doing things, whatever it was. I think everybody had a hand in it. And I felt terribly guilty that I hadn't trained him a little better, because I think he probably could have overcome some of it. But to his credit, I said to him, all right, you've got a couple days to be angry, pissed off, disappointed, whatever. But after those couple days, either you got to figure out what you're going to do, whether it's the fire service or some other job or what. I don't care if you want to be a bartender, you want to do this, you want to do that, but you're going to have to figure things out. And this is a life lesson. And he took it and he did the right thing. And he has not just recovered, but I think flourished from it. And not everybody does that. So
resiliency, man, that's what this job's all about, right?
And the other thing is, he has a tremendous support group with the on-scene instructors.
Yeah.
That we didn't have that when we were kids. These guys, guys like, no kidding, guys like Richie Stack or old Mike Clark, and so Chris Losey and Janny Grima and Bart. He talked to Champ. They're all talking to him. How can you go better than that?
Exactly.
So, and I'm blessed. I'm proud of both my kids. My daughter is in college. She's working really hard. She's doing a part-time job coaching kids soccer, and she overcame some stuff herself, and she's doing great. Dating a good dude and who's a fireman, to my chagrin. Which I cannot believe that both her mother and
they're messing with you, man. That's all I'm gonna say.
I know, and I'm sure her mother said, God, whatever you do, don't date a fireman.
Yeah, right. That's funny.
What happened with me, but yeah, no, I'm really proud of her as well, and she's busting her ass doing
That's
things.
Huge. I mean, you talk about challenges and adversity, but we all face it, and it's how we come through it, right? Is really what matters, and and a lot of it is finding our way. I mean, as a parent, we're so protective of our kids, but we have to let our kids fall down too. And then we have to be there to help get them back up and get them back on the right path. And, and that's hugely important. So I appreciate you sharing that. But I got to think it's proud for you to have your son follow, in your footsteps, but finding his own way. And I think that matters. And for that, he's going to create his own legacy. It's not his dad's legacy. It's his own legacy. And in the fire service, that's super important.
Yeah, and I think he's got a clear vision of it. I think both my kids have clear visions of that, so I'm proud of that. And listen, I got a stepson. I got remarried this past year.
Yeah.
Last year, to just a fantastic person, and God gave me a second chance at life in a way,
Cool.
And she's just awesome. Understands it, comes from a firefighting family. Her brother's retired from Prince George's County. Was a badass down there for sure. Just had lunch or dinner with him last night, and we were talking fire. And I've got a stepson now, which is weird. I never thought I'd have that, but same thing, man. The kid, resilient, went through college, through COVID, did all that, got himself a good job. He's out in LA, and so now it's fun to see this all.
We're blessed. I mean,
we are.
You got to look at that, right? I mean, as much as there's the downs and the lows, there's also a lot of highs, and life's funny that way, man. And I'm grateful for the path that I've been on, and the ups and downs that I deal with, and those downs have made me better for the ups, and that stuff truly matters. So let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk about On Scene a little bit more. What do you have going on?
Sure.
What are you guys up to? Anything exciting, challenging? What do you see coming up?
Yeah, we've got a lot of cool stuff coming up. In fact, we literally just got word from Volvo that we're going to be doing more work with them. So for years, again, prior to the pandemic, we were very fortunate. We have a great relationship. Carl Haddon kind of fostered that relationship, and I was fortunate that he shared it with me. So we're doing stuff with Volvo again. We'll be doing stuff with them actually this month. He'll be in Somerville, South Carolina. I'll be up in Mahwah. So don't let me forget. We got to talk about that when we get off. So we're doing that. Actually, another major manufacturer called us yesterday and jumped in and wants to provide us with vehicles and wants us to do some things with them. So our extrication and EV training is going up a notch or two. It's kind of funny. There's a lot of guys, jumping on the EV train now and LI battery stuff and all that. Carl's been at the forefront of this for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Before it was cool. And he was telling people at FDIC, hey, this is coming. And guys were like, yeah, right, I don't see it. Well, now every training company around wants to get on that train.
100%.
And I'm not against that, man. We got to get the information out. But so we're doing that. We're continuing our relationship with so many departments that we've worked with over the years, and it's just ramping up. We will at some point announce another conference that we're going to do, a small weekend conference. I'm not here to compete with the big boys at all. We just do our thing. But we are going to do that probably down south. I'd like to do another one up north, but we'll see what opportunities present. We're talking to some people, and we're doing some more international work. We actually just talked to some folks. So the South Pacific and Asia and some other markets there that they've called us and asked us to be part of it. So I'm sure we'll be involved in that again. We were very fortunate to go to Asia and the South Pacific many, many times over the years. And
I did see a few photos from, I think, your last class down there, and it looked brutally painful to be teaching down there. I have to be honest with you.
It's a rough gig. I'm not going to lie.
Man, if you need help down there, you let me know. I mean, I'd be more than happy to carry your bags for you.
Oh, that's an open invitation for you. We want to document that stuff.
I do love, man. Talk to me a little bit about that. I love the American Fire Service influence on some of these island nations. It's pretty wild.
It's great. And I will tell you this, man, they have heart. They have heart.
Yes.
They don't have the money we have. They don't have the resources we have. And they don't catch the work we catch, obviously, because of just smaller population.
Sure.
We go to American Samoa, which is a U.S. territory. So obviously they're getting U.S. funds, but not a lot of them, not nearly the kind of money that, my fire department would get. And they're hungry for it. We've been to Saipan, which is Commonwealth of Marianas, basically. And same thing out in the South Pacific, kind of middle of nowhere. If you look at a blip on a map, very, very important place during the wars.
Sure.
And God knows with what's ramping up in Asia right now, how important these places are. It's scary, but they have a passion. They want to learn things, and they love what we do. The Saipan guys were here about a year ago.
I met them.
Yeah. And just awesome dudes, man. Awesome dudes. Came over, did some stuff with us, did some live burns with us, learned about facilities because they're in the process of building some facilities. So we've been blessed to consult with them. We've been blessed to consult with a good friend of ours up your way, a guy named John Hansen, who runs a company Tech. So we've done a lot with him, and that's kind of, it all paired together and brought us to the islands. And you know what I tell everybody, it's beautiful. You got it made when you're there. It is beautiful. It is amazing to be able to look at that landscape and do training and look out and see those mountains or see that ocean and that perfect blue, and the marine life and all that. But I ain't gonna lie, it can be a grind because you're working at times under brutal heat and humidity. They're long days because you have to get as much work in as you can in a short period of time normally,
right,
because the cost of being there and the travel costs are brutal. I mean, airfare now to American Samoa is anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000.
wow,
From the East Coast. So you got to pack in as much work as you possibly can to give them the most bang for their buck. And so the work does add up on you, and you're not home. You're in a different land, eating different food and all that. But learning their culture, that's a big deal. Because the cultural differences between us and them are ginormous.
yeah,
And not any group could just go in there. You go in there with the wrong attitude, and you might as well get back on the plane.
right.
Oh, we've been very blessed. We've had that relationship there for about 15 years, and it's been a blessing, and just tremendous memories, great people, and I really do believe we are making an impact in what they do.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then: what's the impact for you? I mean, you got 40 years in the fire service. You get to travel all over the country. Your son is now a firefighter. You've trained and worked with some of the biggest and best. You've been in the trenches. You've been a chief. I mean, you really have done a tremendous amount within the fire service over your career. What has the fire service done for you? Like, what interactions, being able to travel like that, learn different cultures, meet different people? I mean, all of it. I mean, have you ever sat back and did that 30,000-foot view of what your career and what the span of the last 40 years in the fire service has looked like for you? Have you ever taken a moment?
Probably in this last year, I've taken moments than I ever took.
Yeah.
Because I like I said, I feared retirement. My personal life there for a while was a disaster, and self-inflicted disaster.
All right, listen, man, I get it. Everybody, listen, that's a common theme, man. You're not alone on that. For
yeah.
Sure.
And now, to be honest, I'm in the catbird seat, and my life is good. I can't complain at all. I've got a lot of blessings in it, but yeah, I look back on it and I go, how the hell did that happen? I'm a Buffett song, man. Nobody from nowhere. And wow, how did all that come about?
Right.
And I just think everybody's got a different recipe for success.
Sure.
And for longevity. My recipe is different than others. I think that there was a time I didn't know when to shut my mouth. Right. And my old man let me know that quite a bit, forcefully.
I get it.
And literally just had this conversation with my son this morning because he had his job review yesterday. So he was telling me where he placed on things and what his captain told him about. So it made me think back on my stuff.
Sure.
And there are days, man. I've sat on beaches. I sat on a beach in Hawaii, in February. Shane Ferruta from 50th State Fools invited me out to teach for him. And it was fantastic. And I sat on the beach with my wife and said, who's got it better than me right now?
Yeah.
And Carl and I have had these same conversations. Usually it involves a beach and a drink. But
okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
How the hell did we get here? And Bart and I have had these same conversations. And I think it's just, the luckier, everybody says, oh man, you're so lucky. I do believe that luck plays into everything. Fate plays into things. I'm not the most religious person, but I do believe that, you do good and good can come back. But I just think that it's hard to find the words for it. But
well, let me throw this at you. I think you mentioned the word luck. I think you create your own luck. And I think with that means that when you go through life, and like I said, there's plenty of ups and downs, and you've had them in your career and in your personal life. We all have, right? The thing is, though, is that what do you do with that? And ultimately, if you do the right thing, doing the right thing is always doing the right thing. And I think when you put the job first and you understand the importance of that job and your willingness to try to push that job forward and make it more important than you, I think you're creating your own luck that after 40 years in the fire service, you have the ability to look back and really highlight the highs and realize that, yeah, man, hasn't been so bad. But
listen, the harder it's fact. The harder you work, the luckier you get.
That's right. That's right.
The harder you train, the luckier you are at fires. Maybe you get less close calls because you've worked so goddamn hard in training, right? It's better to sweat in training than bleed in battle, right?
That's right.
So I think you're absolutely right. But you surround yourself with good people. Yeah. I know like Eric Allen talks about, surrounding himself with a great tribe.
That's right.
And I have a ton of respect for that guy. And I agree. You surround yourself with a good tribe. And I've had fabulous influences in my life. I didn't always listen to them, which, now I look back and go, wow, if they were right, I was wrong.
I'm right there with you all day long, man. I wish I let a lot of what was around me absorb into me. But man, when I was younger, I knew everything. And I am a different guy today than I was yesterday, let alone 5, 10, 20 years ago. And but I think that's all part of our story. And, and that's part of it. So, you can't look back and dwell on it, but you can recognize it and say, I could do better.
Yeah. My mom's old saying, and I think it comes from my grandmom in Yiddish probably, was, you can't put an old head on young shoulders.
I like that. That's
true. It's very true.
You can't put you can't put an old head on young shoulders.
Yeah. That's a classic quote.
Hold on, I'm writing it down. Young shoulders. Cool. I love that. That's a good one. That might be the title of this whole freaking podcast, man. That's pretty good. I like that. But I mean, what a great conversation. I will say this, man. I'm excited to see where you're headed and what you got going on. You are one of the guys that I enjoy talking to and just kind of getting the pulse of what's happening out there. I know you're very much involved in, on the national stage of understanding what's going on and in the fire service. And I think that's important. We all need people like that in our lives that are really in touch with what's happening out there. And you certainly are one of those people in my life, and I just appreciate your friendship and your brotherhood. And I'm very happy for you that retirement is settled in. You get to enjoy the beach life a little bit more, and you get to push on scene further now, and you get to bring new talent along with you. Whether it's your current instructor staff or bringing on a few new people like you mentioned before. That's your influence now. You might not be in the firehouse today, but you're certainly out in the fire grounds, and you're bringing new people with you, and that's really how you're going to affect change and continue the legacy, brother. So well done, Chief. Thank you.
I appreciate it, man. I really do, and it's the trail we're going to leave, and the fire service is in good hands, bro. It is.
Hell yeah.
I hear about the new generation this, the new generation that. That's all bullshit, man. We were the new generation. We were shitty once.
That's right.
Some guys are still shitty, but this group, these guys, they're going to do fine. The fire service is going to do fine. And now they've got more outlets, more ways to do it. And I'm proud of it, man. I'm proud to see these guys. I can't wait to see what my kids' generation does. And, I'll be the old guy, hopefully sitting on a beach somewhere, and watching what they do. So we're laying out the crumbs of the trail, so to speak, and they're going to pick it all up and they're going to lay a whole new foundation. So it's a great thing. It really is.
I'm right there with you. I couldn't agree with you more. And that's really the intent of what we're trying to do here. And it's just pushing it forward and leaving it better than we found it. And I agree with you wholeheartedly, man. This next generation has tremendous potential in front of them. And I've seen it just in the last few weeks alone at conferences I've been at. We're in really good hands, man. We're in really good hands. And if you think we're not, or you're one of those guys out there promoting the bad of the job, well, then you're the problem. Get out of the way and let the good ones handle it. That's it. It's that simple. So.
Yep, it really is.
Chief, thank you. Aaron Heller, thank you for joining me today, man. An hour goes quick. I appreciate your friendship and your brotherhood, and great conversation today. Thank you.
Man, thanks for having me on at any time, and anybody can always reach out if I can do anything for them.
Yeah, where can they find you?
On Scene Training has an Instagram and Facebook and a Twitter. I don't get on Twitter as much, but on Instagram and Facebook for sure.
Cool.
I'll give you my cell number. It's no problem. 609-743-0166. And On Scene Training does have a website that's okay. We're upgrading that. But the email on that website's acting up. So hit my regular email. I'll give you that too. It's ajh3901@hotmail.com. And I know I'm old. I still have a Hotmail account.
I wasn't going to say anything.
At least it's not an AOL account.
Hey, I still have an AOL account, just for the record, but that's my junk shopping email that all the crap goes to.
Yeah. So what's up? And anybody that, if I can give you advice or maybe it's not good, I don't know, but I'll give you what advice I can. And if you're looking for different training, I will not offer you training that I don't feel we can deliver properly. And that's, that's very important to me, is to maintain that integrity. So
couldn't agree with you more. Very sound advice there, and it's a good way to look at it. And thank you, brother. I appreciate you joining me today. Hang right here. I'm just going to sign off the podcast. I'll get right back to you, Chief.
All right, brother. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime, man. Anytime. Guys, thank you for tuning in for another episode of the National Fire Radio Podcast. Retired Deputy Chief Aaron Heller out of Hamilton Township, New Jersey, almost 33 years on the line, almost 40 years total in the fire service. The owner and operator of On Scene Training. Check him out on social media. He left you his phone number and email as well. If you have any questions or interest, reach out to him. He's got an incredible instructor staff, and they're doing really great things across the country, pushing this job forward on the training. So thank you, Chief, for joining me. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. And do me a favor, take this conversation, take it back to the firehouse and talk about it, because when we talk about the job, we are making the job better. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you at the next one. Jeremy, National Fire Radio.
National Fire Radio.